Welcome to my Get a Life moment for today with myself, Lisa Davies, and today I have a wonderful guest joining me, John Stacey. Welcome, John.
Hi, Lisa. You all right?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. Thank you. It's good to have you with me. Now, for those people who haven't come across you before, who is John Stacey?
Yeah. So, thank you for having me. Like I said, my name's John. I'm a marketer by trade, day job. I'm kind of working manufacturing. The company I work for, we manufacture disabled access devices for people who are needing a bit of extra help, basically, for a range of different things, to get onto iPads, to get onto computers, to use digital devices in general, for fun, for learning, for offices, all different ranges of ages and capabilities. But on the side, I'm the founder of Men Talk Links, who are a new-ish men's mental health CIC, community interest company, developed to plug a massive hole in Lincolnshire for male specialist mental health services. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, really. I'm a man of many hats, though. Do lots of other things as well. I've got an Instagram account for Father's Mental Health, where I'm connected across the UK with a lot of different networks there. So I work in mental health quite a lot on the side and do different things there. So yeah, that's the nutshell.
So quite busy then, quite busy. And
Yeah.
That is interesting because in my work as a therapist, I was really interested when I heard that you were the founder of Men Talk. And especially also interested in the fathers thing as well, because I became a therapist having had postnatal depression myself.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I've got a particular interest in mental health.
Yeah.
As a therapist. So and I know from my own experience that, dads that are going alongside mums that are going through that, there's really nothing for them. There's really nothing for them. And I know it's much broader than that. It's much broader than that. But it did spring to mind that, there's very little support. And I think I don't know how true this statistic is, but around 50% of men whose partners are going through postnatal depression will also suffer clinical depression themselves.
Yeah, it's very true. It's part of a recent study, actually. I mean, they rounded it up to 51%, but that was 2019, I think. So I actually think it's probably a bit higher than that. It's just undiagnosed, unprescribed, unsignposted. And of course, 1 in 10 men also suffer from postnatal depression. So that's 1 in 10 dads. So, I mean, most of us know 10 dads. So most of us know someone who's probably got postnatal depression, which I think is... I was talking this morning about the stigma on I was on a Clubhouse group this morning and talk about myth busting in mental health. And, I brought up that myth about postnatal depression just being for women. And, a lot of people were shocked. A lot of people were shocked that it was 1 in 10 and that high. And I actually turned around and I said, I think it's probably higher. I think it's just undiagnosed. A lot of men won't come forward. A lot of men won't necessarily think they need support and might get through without it, but they will have had postnatal depression. So...
Yeah. It's fast, isn't it? I mean, I'm talking, well, my daughter's 28, so I'm talking 20 years ago for me, and yet 28 years on, it's still not really moved forward a great deal.
No.
So what was your journey to get you to this place? Obviously, the work that you do in your day job is really crucial, isn't it? It's really crucial to help people out there. But what was your journey to get you to setting up Men Talk?
Yeah, so I think about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a bit longer now, 7 years ago, because I've been saying 5 or 6 years for a couple of years. 7 or 8 years ago now, I kind of had a bit of a breakthrough with my own mental health. And I say breakthrough because it wasn't a lot of people talk about starting a journey being a massive low. For me, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I guess what started off as being completely blind to mental health and just ignoring it and thinking it wasn't a thing. If you had depression, you were sad. If you had anxiety, you were just worried a lot. I was one of those guys. And basically I had a lot of migraines, had health issues, and took myself to the doctors like most men eventually do after being kind of forced to go, kind of thing. It's too much to take. Which is just silly in itself. And it's one of the things I hate now about men, about myself and other people. No, it's kind of, so I went to doctors, they said, look, we'll try some antidepressants, we'll try different things. It could be stress related, it could be this, could be that. And it just opened my eyes to it all. And then went through courses of therapy for different things. And it just what I call it, the way I describe it, is it just opened so many different doors in my mind, and so many different doors that I'd locked away, lots of emotions and lots of feelings and lots of undealt with traumas, lots of undealt with past issues. And it also started to answer a lot of questions kind of about how, the way I was and how I wasn't perhaps happy generally, but also not happy with the person I was. So it started to make me really interested, started to make me want to learn more, started to make me want to help people more. And in that journey, I've had, massive highs, massive lows in my own mental health. And, every day is a learning day. Every day is a growth day. I'm still trying to keep a handle on a lot of things within my own mental health, which I'm absolutely more than open to talk about. But yeah, fast forward a few years, I started the work in father's mental health just via the Instagram page that I had my daughter. She's 2.5. And I always say I wasn't really affected by the birth with regards to it ramping up my mental health. I had the same problems, I guess, that most dads have, lack of sleep, your life's completely changed kind of thing. And that's a control issue. But I think because I was quite prepared and already dealing with my own mental health, generally, I kind of was aware enough of the things that were happening, the changes that were happening, rather than being completely closed off. So I liken it to being sort of kind of armed up with a few tools for becoming a dad. It wasn't perfect, but I was kind of already halfway there maybe. But I just noticed other dads and other situations where I could see these people really capitulating in lots of kind of, and not just dads in the family unit because of the dad's side of things. And then I started to research more into it, started to find out about the massive discrepancies, the massive inequality of support for men in these situations, from right the way from conception right the way through to the end of the perinatal period and beyond. So yeah, I started a signposting page on Instagram. Before I know it, I was being asked to put my face to things. I was being asked to promote different things. I was being asked to tell my story in lots of different formats, podcasts, webinars, all these different things. And what that led me to do is network with a lot of great people who are working in fantastic areas to make change in this area. So there's people lobbying the World Health Organization, alliances that are working to bang on the doors of the government to change this process, and they're doing some amazing stuff. And then fast forward to 6 months ago, and I made a bit of a conscious decision, because my life is really busy, as you said at the start there. Yeah. And because I'd seen a lot of people come out of nowhere within the last few years with regards to joining the fight, I just decided to take a step back and just kind of still be involved, still signpost, still have that Instagram page, and still involve myself where needed, and be involved as much as possible as I could, but it not be my primary extracurricular activity anymore. Yeah. And I wanted to focus on more localized support, because during the first lockdown last year, I took it upon myself to, when we were allowed out the house, to go out and find out what was going on in Lincoln, because I was doing all this work online, doing all this national stuff for the father side. I thought, how can I help locally? So I got involved with my MVP, my maternity voice partnership in Lincolnshire, got involved with Better Births through the NHS and doing lots of work with them, which is great. But I kind of wanted to do more with regards to men's mental health generally, so beyond dads, because essentially we're still men, so it's the same thing. But I used to work with schools and stuff in an old job, and I kind of realized that we really need to start younger. It hit hard when I was having a conversation with someone one time about the kind of men's mental health work needs to start a lot younger for a generational change to happen. So yeah, it's basically now developed to what Men Talk is. And Men Talk is very deeply involved in quite a lot of things, and it's growing very quickly. But we're trying to walk before we can run, and help as many men as possible in Lincoln and Lincolnshire with a range of different ways of doing so.
Yeah. So what sort of services do you offer?
Yeah, so at the moment, because we're still fairly new, I've got to be honest, and I don't mean it kind of negatively at all, but we are struggling to do a lot straight away. And we're a non-profit, so I think that's the first thing to get out of the way. We don't earn money, so we can't pay anyone. Sorry, we do earn money, but we don't pay anyone. That money goes straight back into the activities. No one puts money in the pocket from this. And that was a key thing I really wanted to do, because I've come across a lot of different groups who, and a lot of different kind of, I don't use this word lightly, but charlatans who use the mental health trend to put money in their pocket, and I don't like that. And so that was kind of under my ethos of the business to make that not happen. So what we're doing at the moment is We have our speakeasies, which are our talking groups. So we have men's talking groups online, and they're every fortnight. They're going fantastically well. There's a really nice little group of community base. It's sort of turned into a little community, actually, of all just helping each other, range of ages, range of different walks of life, all helping each other, led by myself. But half the time I'm chucking little nuggets of information, but they're actually just helping each other, just being there, just talking. It's just fantastic. They're on Tuesday nights every 2 weeks. And then we're just about to launch, well, we've already launched it, but we're just about to start the Lads and Dads activity at the Active Arena, which is in Lincoln near Sainsbury's. And that is basically our first kind of foray into a big project. The Active Arena got the funding for it, and they've invited us to come in and do a session after a free hour of football. So it's a 12-week long, 12 guys. Yeah. We'll go along at 7 o'clock, get an hour of free football, get to know each other, chat, get a bit of space, enjoy themselves, have a kick around. And then an hour afterwards, 8 till 9, they'll have a mental health session. And essentially that mental health session is, we've got a lot of plans, but it's basically just an open forum. They can be themselves, they can non-judgmental, they can have a chat. We can be as deep as they like or as shallow as they like. And it's to extend that space a little bit further than just getting out of the house for a bit of exercise. It's to hopefully learn, develop, grow, share, and just kind of talk more, really, and just sort of get more connected with your emotions, because that's the underpinning thing with all of this. So those are the two current things. We've got lots of stuff planned in the future. So we've got a walk and talk that we're hoping to start soon, which is a fantastic sort of idea. If you ever come across a walk and talk, it's groups of people walking, which in Lincolnshire, it's fantastically rural, so there's loads of nice places to walk.
Poised for that.
Yeah, it's amazing for it. And then we've also got a lot of stuff that we're promoting. So we're involved in a lot of things that are already out there, because one of the massive parts of Men Talk Links is to bring the community together, to promote each other, and actually help out with. So, rather than us sort of headlining everything, we're getting involved with Run Talk Run, which is a national thing. But in Lincoln, it's led by Tom Dunning, who's the mental health runner. That's what he calls himself. He does some great work, Tom Dunning, and we're wanting to push that as much as possible, get people involved in running on a Tuesday night with him. We're getting involved in kind of a lot of key things to do with just getting men out and about and getting them sort of together. So we've got a lot of plans, but I don't want to say too much because it's kind of like unlaunched yet.
But yeah, we've got in the pipeline.
Yeah. It kind of sounds a bit like I haven't got anything planned, but we do have a lot of stuff planned.
Some of it I'm sure is embargoed at this time. But
yeah.
The interesting thing is, I've been a therapist now for 21 years, and a high proportion of my clients are men.
Oh wow, that's good. In a way,
it kind of changes. It shifts and ebbs and flows. But I do get quite a lot of men, and some of them are referred by their businesses. Some of them self-refer. Some of them are referred by their partners, girlfriends, wives, mothers that have seen me as well. But I'm interested to know, because it sounds very men together.
Yeah,
blokes together, which is great, because if they were down the football or down the pub, they might talk about other stuff. They might not talk about their emotions, but actually encouraging that is really good, because us girls do it all the time. But what I find really interesting is a lot of my clients say, I don't want to see a male therapist. I feel more comfortable seeing a woman. And I don't know what that's about. Now, that obviously is people who I've attracted who have come to me because I am a woman. But then equally, I know some fantastic male therapists. Some of my colleagues are fantastic male therapists. But it's really interesting. So what about those men that, they'll come along and they'll have a kick around the football, and they might listen to what's being said, but still won't disclose to another man?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I've come across quite a few therapists, actually male therapists, who've said that, they're first of all, they're a premium. There's not many male therapists around, which has its own stigmas and things like that around the profession.
This is a great one. So if anybody wants any recommendations I've got some great colleagues.
Awesome. I like to see that. And when I've spoken to these therapists that I've kind of worked with, they actually highlight that they get more men than women come to them, but they also get a lot of men who don't want to speak to a man, like you said. So that's quite interesting. No, I think there's an issue there that for me is something I've had to get over. So when I started to get involved in all of this, you know, my gut reaction when I was kind of like really excited to help people was like, why are you not talking? Why are you not talking about it all? You know, talk about your emotions. And I had to understand that actually, like, I was in that situation where I used to find it really difficult to talk about anything. And it was kind of a breakthrough that I had through lots of different ways. You know, it wasn't just one thing that gave me a breakthrough where I could open up and talk. So I have to remember that patience I had with myself, even though I didn't feel like I was having that patience, and then sort of use that with these men. And yeah, we've come across a few already. There was a guy who came to one of the speakeasies, and the element of all of what we do with Men Talk Links is you can be completely anonymous in most of this stuff. You don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything, you just literally have to be present.
Camera on, you can just listen.
Yeah. So we had someone come along who didn't have the camera on, didn't have the sound on, and he gave his name, which was fine. You know, didn't have to. I told him he didn't have to, but he gave his name, and he was chatting all the way through on the Zoom chat. And afterwards, you know, I spoke to him, and he was like, I wasn't intended to chat so much on the Zoom. And I was like, well, you were already getting involved. You know, he obviously was really happy to hear everybody opening up a little bit, and it obviously gave him that sort of confidence to do so a little bit himself. And he said he is going to try and build up to it, but, you know, doesn't feel up to it right now. I said, it's absolutely fine. No one judged you on the call, did they? No one's going to judge you going forward. Do whatever you think is right. So yeah, I think it's an important point to make. You know, some people won't open up, and I've spoken to the guys with regards to the lads and dads. You know, if we have 12 weeks and say 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, however many, hopefully not all of them, but however many, you know, don't get involved, don't talk for the whole of the 12 weeks. First of all, I'll be massively shocked, because what we've designed and the way we're doing it, you know, hopefully will open people up a little bit at least, so they can start to talk a little bit more and start to listen and involve themselves in activities and things that take them out of the comfort zone a little bit to explore what's going on in their head. But if we do, we do. And I just feel like, you know what? They've been there, they've tried it, they've for me, it's a badge of trial. You know, like I talk about a lot of when I'm talking to people, I talk about trial and error, and I don't like the phrase trial and error. I like the phrase trial, because everything's a trial, but error has this negative connotation that you've done something wrong.
There's no failure, there's only feedback, isn't there? That's the thing.
Yeah. So I just think that, look, if something doesn't work for you, great. It's a massive thing to go back and go, what an awesome positive. You tried something, it didn't work for you. Now you can move to something else. And I've lived my life by that, really, up until, you know, right back from, you know, being a kid. I was never an anxious person when it came to risk. I would try everything. There were obviously a few things as a young lad that I wouldn't try, but I was quite open to trying anything from my own perspective. I always wanted to get my own opinion on things. I'd never took some other people's opinions on things. I wanted to get my own. So I love to try, and I think that people should just try things. If it doesn't work for you, you go, okay, cool, tried it, move on, let's try something else. And I think that's the biggest thing about it, opening up that platform and that connectivity to go, look, you've been here for 12 weeks, you didn't get much from it, but talk to me. Like, can I signpost you to something else? Maybe something else might work for you. Like, tell me what you think you might work for you, and just have that conversation with people. Because, you know, sometimes, well, actually a high percentage of the time, these blokes haven't had anyone ask them. No one's asked them how they are. No one's asked them what they want. No one's asked them what they need when it comes to their mental health. So it could be quite a good eye-opening conversation to have.
But here's the thing as well, it's not necessarily about gender, is it, at all? It's not necessarily about men
at all,
men or women. It's not necessarily about gender. There's also another layer going on. There's personality, type of personality that somebody has may make them less likely to be vocal. If they're an introvert, then they're less likely to do that. It doesn't mean to say that they're not taking anything from it at the end of that 12 weeks, but they're not necessarily going to be as vocal about it.
Yeah, exactly that.
So there's levels, and also personal values come into it as well. So there's so many different layers, isn't there? So even if somebody came along for the lads and dads for 12 weeks and wasn't vocal and didn't choose to share, it doesn't mean to say they haven't learnt from what everybody else has said and what they've gained from that. So there's different layers, and different people will take different stuff from it. But what an opportunity, what a great opportunity. I mean, just getting out and getting active is really good for your mental health, as we know. So anything on top of that is a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, this is all free of charge. You know, these guys can sign up for it free of charge. Now, I don't. I'm trying to go back 6-7 years now before I started my journey. I think I would sign up for something like this. I think I would go for it because it's a 3 hour of footy for 12 weeks. I get to meet new people. If I had the time and I was, you know, perhaps single or whatever, and I was just like, you know, or whatever, in my mind, I would think I would jump at it. And I think that the other thing with that is, you know, you go along, you try something, and like I say, if you don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy it. You know, you still have gained something from it because you've gone out and done something different. But yeah, it's free of charge. It's not professing to be any kind of psychiatric, you know, we're not going to probe these people. We're not going to it's not a deep counseling or therapy. What it basically is introductory level. We're going to talk to you about a couple of things that you might not have spoken about. Some of the people coming along to this might know everything we're going to tell them and might be absolutely fine with it all. Great. I want them people to impart on their experiences so that other people can relate to it. What I've learned over these last few years is there is so much power in relatability. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing now, and the reason why I've been involved in all the great things I've been involved with, and the reason why people listen to me, whether it's for 1 second or for an hour, is because I basically am what they're going through or have been through. I'm not a professional. I don't come from a background of being a doctor, whatever. And that's not to say that's a negative. What I'm using is the skills and learning that I've learned through theory and adding that to my experience. And I think what you don't get enough of these days are people who are able to. I'm not saying that they don't want to, because I'm talking from a therapist point of view now. I know these therapists that I've spoken to, and they find it incredibly difficult because of the way that they have to do things. They can't relate, you know, they can't talk about their experiences, or it's not appropriate or whatever. So I think this is something completely different. Peer-led kind of work is so unstructured and kind of unhelpful at times. So this goes back to kind of my research that I did before I started Mentalk, and the reason why it's called Mentalk and why it's not just about men. I researched a lot of men's groups around the UK, and I researched a lot of companies around the UK doing similar things. I connected with a lot of them and networked, I chatted, and I just, you know, I was sat there and I was thinking, this is all great, you're doing some great stuff here, but have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? No. And it was just kind of like walls. People were just quite happy to stay in their lane and do what they needed to do. And probably to my own detriment, I just thought, I need to do more than this. I need to do more than what these guys are doing in different cities and counties. So we are completely open to involvement from all genders, all identities, whatever. We only have one caveat, and that's that the outward activities that we're involved in is for men. The rest of it, all of our content we put out, all of our research and signposting, all of our work that we want people to be involved with, you can be whatever identity you want. You know, we spoke to someone the other day who was inquiring about getting involved, and they were worried because they identified as a male, even though they're female. And I was kind of like, well, hold on, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with it at all. We're all people. We're doing this because of people. And like you said at the start, you know, the referrals to your practice, normally from their wives, sisters, daughters, whatever, referring them. Like, it's crucial that we connect with all different people from all different walks of life. It's absolutely crucial because we're all connected. We're all the same. The reason this exists, though, is because when I did that research locally and wanted to get involved in something as a volunteer, there was a lot of really, really great female specialist groups, and nothing for men. And I was asking the charities and the groups that were running these groups, and I sort of said, you know, how many men do you get turn up to the non-gender specific stuff? And they said hardly any. And I said, I think it's because there's nothing that's for a specialist thing for men. I think it's because there's nothing that is accessible in a way that men will attach to it because it's right for them or whatever, or because they think it's something different that'll suit their needs or their interests. And they just sort of like lit up when I told them that, and everybody I spoke to that I connected with in the early days was like, somebody needs to set this up.
And you thought, why not me?
Well, I kind of didn't really. At the start, I was a bit like, oh my God, this is going to be a lot of work. And originally it was just going to be a group. It was just going to be nothing. It was not even going to be a business. It was just going to be a group. I was going to set up probably what the speakeasies are now and just do it. But the more I started to talk to people, the more I started to get people involved volunteer-wise. I built up a board of directors, if you want to call it that, of some really great people who are local businessmen. And, you know, they're really keen in We're getting some females involved now at a higher level as well as volunteers. And it's just, you know, it's just all growing and people are just asking me to do more. And I think it's a case of fine, we will if we can. And it's just kind of growing around that. Originally, it was supposed to only be Lincoln. It was just going to be Lincoln and the surrounding villages. And it was only going to start that way for a year or two. But within a month of launching, we had people contacting us from Grantham, Sleaford, Boston, you know, saying, look, can you help us set something up? Or can you get involved and do something here? And I'm like, oh, we haven't got enough time and I haven't got enough energy myself to do X, Y, and Z. So I can help you, but I can't, you're going to need to get your own people together to do this. And I can support you as much as I can. And, you know, the I guess the long-term aim is to be able to just to say yes to stuff like that and actually set things up. So, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it just reinforces the need, doesn't it? If you're getting those requests, then it just reinforces the fact that there is a huge need.
I don't think I'm even scratching the surface, though. That's the thing, Lisa. Like, I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but in the first few months, I've had so many people contact me about services needed and things that are out there, and can I refer people to you, and can I do this, and can I do that, and you know, I was expecting it to grow quickly, but not in this way. I was expecting people to just want to be happy it exists and promote it. It's been the other way. It's actually been that people are a little bit reluctant to share it and promote it. But the people who want to get involved want to create more activity. And they don't, as a marketer, you can't do one on the other. You need to do both. So yeah, it's been eye-opening, but at the same time, it's answered a lot of my questions. Like you say, it's kind of answered my questions about whether it's needed. Absolutely. It's answered my questions that it's much further afield than I thought. You know, I was, again, the reason why, one of the reasons I was going to say it's only Lincoln is because, you know, you can find something in Grimsby and Scunthorpe. There's some really great men's specialist work. So 25 miles away, you can find something, but Lincoln and the surrounding villages are exposed completely to nothing. But then, I didn't think of the other side of the county, you know, so it's kind of, you know, it just, there's a lot of gaps and huge gaps, and we're very disconnected in Lincolnshire.
It's a vast county though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a vast county.
Yeah, it's vast. It's got no motorway, which a lot of people sort of prescribe as being a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. And we're very rural, proudly rural, you know, which is fantastic. And we've got our RAF bases and all that kind of thing, things that we should be really happy about. But what goes with those happy things, unfortunately, is a microcosm. And, you know, the forces aside, the rurality side of things, the farming culture and things like that is sort of stoically quite old-fashioned generally. You know, it's obviously trying to be more modern
type thing. You don't talk about your emotions, those types of things. Absolutely. So how do you get the balance then for yourself, because you're clearly in demand? How do you ensure that you maintain your mental well-being and your balance?
So it's a good question. I don't know. I limit myself to a few evenings a week. That's the first thing. I burnt out majorly before Christmas trying to set all this up. So I'm not ashamed to say I just crumbled. I was working every evening. Floods of tears one day because I just had enough. I'd had enough. I was going to quit. I was going to quit the whole thing. My wife, we had a chat, me and my wife's amazing. So that's the biggest thing really, to be honest. But me and my wife had a chat and she just said, look, you need to do this. You want to do this. Like, you don't have to do it. I can support you if you want to stop. But, if you want to carry on doing this, all you need to do is make sure you limit yourself and you create your own boundaries for yourself. You know, like, you need to stop pushing yourself too hard. And it's easy to get wrapped up in the momentum of it all. And this is where my background comes from with marketing. You know, I've worked in marketing for 15 years, and essentially when you are in different levels of marketing and you're involved in something, you have to ride the momentum no matter how tired you are. And I think
allegedly.
I mean, I'm a bit more pragmatic these days, but I think the thing that hit me hard was the fact that, the thing that hit me hard but also was a massive positive, was that this is always going to be needed. If not, it's going to be needed more and more and more. So I don't have to do everything right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not the only person that isn't trying to do this. There's some great things out there. So the kinds of work that I can do really easily, I should focus on those when I haven't got the time to do other things, such as the signposting of great services that are out there in Lincolnshire. such as getting, people involved in things that aren't being ran by myself, because that's easy. I'll put a couple of social media posts out there. I'll network with some people and say, have you heard about this? Please pass out to your networks, and get some people involved. And that's nothing to do with me, and this is the other sort of great side of things, why it's not really a business, because it's helping other people too. So yeah, that was part of it. And I think the other part of it was realizing that essentially this isn't something that should take over my life. I have a day job. I have a salary that comes in from my day job. I have important things. My daughter's my most important thing to me right now. I need to ensure that priority shifting that I did a while ago, when I really started to sort my life out and sort my head out, I continue to do that with Men Talk Links involved. It is an important part of my life. It is something I need to spend time doing, but I need to make sure I do it in the right way and for my own health's sake. So I need to practice what I preach a little bit, and that's kind of what's helped me, I guess. So
yeah. So you've got to fill up your own cup first, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Yeah.
Oh, that's one of my favorite sayings. So yeah, I do make sure I can pour from that cup, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. So as I ask all of my guests, the big question is, if you were to give our listeners and viewers a top tip for life, what would your top tip for life be, John?
It's an easy one for me, but I'm going to talk about it in hopefully a slightly different format of what other people might have done if they'd have said a similar one. But the biggest tip for me is just to talk to people. And I don't necessarily mean, break down on your knees and have a massive breakdown and open up your heart and tell them everything 100% in one go. But just talk generally. And I mean, that can be talking to your closest friend. It can be talking to your wife. It can be talking to your family. It can be talking to a stranger. And I talk about this quite a lot because my experience of therapy and working with networks and working with and finding mentors and opening my mind to the way that other people think has been massively crucial to me, to a point where without them I probably wouldn't be anywhere near where I am now. So when I speak to people who are unsure about who to talk to or how to open up, I say, well, for me, there's two different types of people in the world. There's people who you're already connected with, that you have a non-judgmental relationship. You've been through so much together that if you were to tell them something like this, they would shrug it off because it's nothing, kind of thing. And actually just actually understand it and deeply connect to what you're saying, rather than kind of just being shocked by it and run away. So throw that out of your mind, find that person, because they're not going to run away. Despite the fact that everything inside you is telling you that person's going to run away, they won't. If you truly know them and you're truly connected with them, they won't run away. And then the second person is somebody who has an open mind to meet people like yourself. So it can be a therapist. It can be somebody like yourself. It can be an advocate that spreads across social media great messages and says, my DMs are always open and all this kind of stuff. And I say that because that's the kind of cheesy comment that I used to say on my mental health Instagram. Or it could be like a platform like Men Talk Links. It could be a social media presence that you've seen that talks really great stuff. There's so many out there that do some really great video content and do really great sort of messaging content, and they are more than happy for you to sort of reach out to them, and they will signpost you if they can't support you. But half the time, that's like talking to a wall, a supportive wall that won't like knock you back and won't knock you down. It will offer you someone to listen. So I think the sort of follow on from what I always say is, when I say you need to talk more, we need to talk as a human race, we need to talk more, is we also need to understand how we're going to be listened. So it's a case of, you'll get different versions of listening depending on who you're speaking to. And for men, generally speaking, and I hate generalizing, but generally speaking, probably the most popular type of listening that we need when we're first making that leap to start talking for the first time, probably is that brick wall, that stranger, that nobody that you actually aren't expecting what answer you're going to get because you don't know them at all. And I say that from experience. The biggest thing for me was looking back at my experience of therapy for the first time. When I was talking to that therapist, I don't think I'd ever said, like, I don't know, 90% of what I said to them. I don't think I'd ever said any of that before. And certainly as I progressed into different formats of therapy and different ways of speaking to people, some of the stuff I've spoken to people about, I'd never, ever said those words. And I don't think I ever would have said them to anyone in my family or my wife or friends. I don't think I'd ever say any of it. Still to this day, I don't think I would. And that's just the way that we're sort of culturally designed or whatever you want to call it, and we could talk about that all day, really.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, you've just got to understand that that's the sort of crucial thing. Talking to that sound board or whatever you want to call it, you know, like a board that's just going to listen, take it in, and actually offer guidance based on what you've said, not guidance of what they think is right, guidance based on what you've said. So yeah, I've gone off on a little one there, but that's the two things I always say to people about talking. It's the two types of people. You know, you might find that the best person to go to is your loved ones. You might find that the best person to go to is people you've never met before, and I think that's really crucial to get out there.
Yeah, it just reminds me, I mean, not that I've done it very recently, but when you get on a train, if I get on a train to London, for example, I always get somebody to come and sit next to me, and by the end of the journey they have told me their life story. Yeah, and they get off feeling lighter.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, it's funny. It's like a comfort thing. You know, it's like they're disconnected from their reality, because your reality, unfortunately, has closed you into a box. It's closed you into a box where you should say and should do certain things. And if you are in that situation and you're on that train, you're going somewhere no one knows you, you're sat next to a stranger, it's so comfortable to just talk whatever. You can make up a story, you could do whatever you wanted to, you could just let off some steam. It's insanely productive, I think, to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolutely fascinating half hour or whatever it's been, just hearing about your journey, hearing about all of the great work that you're doing, and supporting other people doing great work as well by all the signposting that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, you know, being so candid about your own experience, and also that it's also always a work in progress, isn't it? This balance, this juggling act.
Yeah, it's regular.
Just because we may have been there, done that, worn the t-shirt, doesn't mean to say that you're not learning every day, and you're not always.
I mean, that's so crucial. That's so crucial to open your mind to as well. Like, so many people think that the finished article. So many people think that. I was on one of the first speakeasies. I'll leave you with this little nugget. One of the first speakeasies I did was so shocking for me, because it was after I'd done one where I was kind of really nervous, and I was like, oh, I've got to give all this great information I know to people. And then I realized I've really got to step back and let them talk a little bit. So it was kind of third or fourth one along. And they were talking amongst themselves. They were telling stories about their weeks and stuff like that. And I was obviously a bit quiet. And one of the guys who's one of the quietest people we have on the speakeasy, just asked me how my week had been. And I just was so taken aback. I was kind of like, oh, well, actually, you know, it's not been great. Actually, it's been quite, you know, I've had a bit of a rubbish few days where I've had a really bad, you know, couple of days, felt really down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it opened up a little bit. And the thing for me was, in the back of my head, I was thinking they're going to be really shocked. They're going to be really shocked that I'm going through this. Nobody was shocked. Everybody realized I was a normal person who has the same thing as everybody else. The same, I'm a human being, the same problems.
We're living the human experience. Yeah.
And it was just beautiful. It was kind of really nice to see it like that. And I think it's really important that men understand that, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. We're all normal, we're all human. There's no, you know, negativity to there's no negativity to having a negative day. There's nothing around that. It's, you know, we're all the same. So yeah. And
we're all a work in progress. Every day is a school day, otherwise pushing up daisies. So, you know, every day is a school day.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's been
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely.